this desire to be in nature and grow gardens was planted in us all the way back there. So, we were born in the garden. And so that's why it's still so strong, I think, in most people. I didn't know it was strong in me until I married him. I'm from Toronto, so my garden was a little plant in my apartment. But now I get to be with him in a garden all day long for most days of the week. So how many of you have gardens? Everybody's got a garden. Okay, good stuff. So the health benefits you can attest to, I'm pretty sure. So, honey, what are some of these health benefits?
Of course, you're constantly moving, right, through the garden, squatting, lunching, lifting, stretching. So it can improve your balance, strength, and flexibility, which is so important, especially as we get a little bit older.
Absolutely.
And
your diet.
Improves your diet. Yeah, you're eating those good organic veggies. Hopefully, you're doing organically growing, and that's the purpose of our class here today.
Exactly.
And of course, the sunshine. And I'm not sure if you're
we'll talk a little bit about sunshine.
But how important that is.
Absolutely. And the food supply. We're talking about the food supply because remember back in the early days of COVID, how the superstores and all those stores kind of sold out of the beans and all kinds of things. If you've got your own supply in your own backyard, you are good to go.
Helps make you more resilient, right? It's all about resilience.
Absolutely, positively. And so we know that actually getting out into nature is amazing for our good health. Did you know, though, that it reduces your heart rate and muscle tension, it lowers your blood pressure, and what's that vitamin it gives us? Vitamin D, exactly, the kiss of the sun for vitamin D. So a few other things that it does, it relieves stress. Did you know that it reduces the risk of dementia? Look at that number, 36 to 47%. Dementia, and dementia is rife in our communities today. Yep, your blood pressure, your mood, your sunshine, the food supply, all of those good things. So one little thing I wanted to mention in this before we dive into the actual gardening part, I'm falling over, is that getting dirty may also make you happier and less stressed. And this is from studies that talk about your gut and how soil interacts with your gut. And that sounds
bacteria in your gut,
exactly with the bacteria. The bacteria in the soil interacts with the bacteria in your gut. Unbelievable. Goes through your skin, goes through your body, interacts with your gut, and makes you happier and less stressed. How good is God? Amazing, amazing, amazing. All right, and yes, with your brain as well, there's studies that show that a friendly bacteria in the soil also interacts with your brain. So all of these things that God has put into that soil, this is why Adam and Eve were created in a garden. God knew what he was doing. And we have to find out about all of these ways that it boosts our immune system, it makes us happier and healthier, all of these things. This is interesting. Alternatively, people that live and work indoors in the soilless concrete cities, eating exclusively of commercially grown foods, farmed in poisoned, lifeless soil, will develop a weakened and diminished gut microbiome, making them much more susceptible to all manner of disease. So, you guys ready to go do some gardening? You're ready to do some gardening? All right, honey.
Okay.
Talk to us about gardening.
Common complaints about gardening. A ton of hard work. Have any of you experienced that?
That's true. Yeah.
Weeds. I know we've experienced both of those things. Pests. Yeah, it seems sometimes, some years especially, it seems everything is trying to attack your garden.
Flea beetles, potato beetles.
That's been our thing this year, is flea beetles. And then poor results, even after all that hard work, having not much to show for all that hard work.
What's the solution?
So the solution is garden in the same manner as God designed nature to naturally grow.
We can learn.
So even just looking out here, all around us, we see these trees. I mean, we're not right deep in the woods, but say if we look up there on the hillside there, And is anyone fertilizing up that hill there? Probably
The
not.
birds. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
not,
animals.
but we are
Yeah.
we having to go out there and weed in around those bushes and those trees, and yet everything's just growing lush and vibrant, right? Another big thing that is how nature is actually drought resistant, and that's from a bunch of different for a bunch of reasons, but it's drought resistant and rarely any pests or disease problems as well. You don't see much. You might see the occasional plant or tree that is getting attacked by pests, but in general, it's relatively pest-free. So learning from nature, ground is always covered. When we look up on that hill once again, it's down at the bottom. I can see a little bit of bare soil, but that's only because probably people have been walking there or tractors or whatever. But up there, you don't see a bit of soil, right? It's completely covered. And if you look up there, you'll see, I'd have to go to see how many different plants are there, but I'm sure a whole ton of different kinds of plants, all growing in basically the same place. And that gets to what you're talking about companion planting, we'll get into more later.
So taking all of that, we can now move into the actual gardening, applying it to our own gardens.
It's not gonna, we're not gonna be able to duplicate everything in nature because nature, these are naturally way more hardy than our vegetables. Our vegetables have been hampered for thousands of years, most of them, and so they need more work, but they don't. But oftentimes we end up doing way more work than what we need to do for them.
Absolutely. I keep telling him, honey, we should just harvest the weeds and sell the weeds because you don't have to do anything. You don't have to water them. You don't have to. Oh, it's amazing what God has done.
Yeah. So here are our 10 keys to a great vegetable garden. So these are the things, 10 keys that a garden absolutely needs in order to grow well.
And he's going to talk about sunshine, water, rich soil, wide, deeply dug raised beds, mulching, crop rotation, interplanting, proper spacing, good weed management, and good pest management. So, honey, take
let's
it away.
get into that. Okay, so sunshine. You need at least 6 hours of full sunlight for most plants in your garden. You're going to need that. And so, if you're completely in the shade for much of the day, if at all possible, try and get a place with more sunshine because your weed benefits so much from the sunshine. The plants need that as well to grow well and to be full of nutrients. Water, try to keep newly seeded beds always moist, especially with some is especially crucial. Carrot seeds can be, if you water and then let it dry out for a few days just after you planted it, you can have hardly any actually germinate. So like carrots are a real key one that you have to keep the soil moist. So a great way to do that for carrot seeds is to either have sprinklers set up on a timer, or you can just cover it with anything. It could be some boards that you cover the row of carrots with. It could be some landscape fabric. And carrot seeds take pretty much exactly 7 days to germinate. So you can just cover it with something, water it, and then cover it. And then just when it gets around day 5, then you can start just checking it. Or you could take it right off around day 5 and they will be coming up good. So.
Are you guys familiar with landscape fabric? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So. And then so in general, a garden is going to need 1 inch of water per week, so either in rain or by sprinklers. Water first thing in the morning, never evening.
Why is that?
Yeah. If at all possible. I mean, sometimes on the farm we just end up having to water if something needs water. It's better if you need to water if something's really badly wilting than just water, but if at all possible, water in the morning.
Why?
Yeah, so does anybody know why that would be? So, yeah, well, I mean, if you water in the evening, it's going to stay moist all night, but that is actually the bad part. So now you have all these leaves that are moist. That's a great thing for funguses, especially like squash plants, mildew, cucumbers, all those plants. If they're moist all night when it's cool, then it's just gonna breed mildew a lot. So ideally, if you could water it, if you had it on timer, water like just when the sun is coming up, nice and early, and then not in the heat of the day, because when you water in the heat of the day, a lot of it's just evaporating, not very efficient. Yeah, so that's the reason why you want to water in the morning. Watering the soil is preferable for most plants to watering the leaves. So that's where soaker hoses or drip irrigation is great for much of the plants. Yeah.
So if it's 35 or 40 degrees out and they're watered in the morning, what happens at 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon?
If they're, well, that's the thing. That's when watering. Of course, it changes depending on if you have sandy soil, you're going to have to water more. What you really want to do is when you're watering, and we didn't say that that in the slide, but you want to water deep and not quite so frequently is the best thing. Except if you have sandy soil, then you might have to water more frequently because it's just running through. We've had sandy soil, but plants will, if you water them in the morning and it's super hot, they might wilt a bit in the heat of the day when it's like 38, 40 degrees. But that's just a natural thing. It doesn't mean that they're actually dry. Because if you water properly in the morning, more, like an hour or two at least. When we water, we are watering a few hours when we water.
Every day?
No, that's the thing. Then you'd only water, even when it's really hot, we'd only water at the most maybe a couple of days a week. But we have clay soil now. At the most, when we had sandy soil, it would be like every 2 days, even when we had really, really hot weather.
When the leaves start covering the ground, then of course the sun doesn't quite dry out the ground as quickly.
And that's the thing. So we're going to get into mulching as well, or when you're having leaf cover. You just need that soil. If the soil's moist, you don't need to water, right? So yeah, it's not and if it's rainy, obviously we vary how much. Some weeks we may not water at all. You just need that 1 inch of water per week in general. But yeah, you check the soil. If it's bone dry and if they need it in the afternoon, then just water. and if it's drip irrigation, it's not a big deal because you're not getting the leaves moist. So you can water in the evening and it wouldn't be that big of a deal, for instance, if it's drip irrigation. Best manures would be, well, there's a number of different ones. If you can get it, like things like pigeon manure is definitely one of the best. Rabbit manure is really, really good. Goat or sheep manure, those are some of the other really, really good ones. But yeah, we use a lot of steer manure. I've used a lot of horse manure. Horse manure has some of the most amount of weed seeds, but if you compost it and kill those weed seeds, it's really good. One of the best, actually. Chicken manure is great. Of course, it's very potent. So they're pretty much all good. You just important thing with manure is you want to know the source because they can have a herbicide in them. And what's the name? I think it's called Severin, or I'm trying to remember. But there's this one kind of herbicide that if it's in the manure and you spread it on your garden, nothing's going to grow there for about 7 years. And so you got to be careful with that.
What about mushroom?
Oh yeah, mushroom manure is excellent. Mushroom manure is actually horse manure. That's just being used to grow mushrooms. That's what mushroom manure is. So it's more aged and it's just that's great.
If this year's a bit hormone fed or nothing?
Yeah, you definitely want to be, exactly, like what these animals are being given. If it's bunch of like antibiotics that are given to the animals, it will go right through and into your plants, and you will get those antibiotics in your tomatoes or whatever you're eating in your garden. So you do want to be careful with those kind of things.
What about the herbicides, in the manure? Is it something that they actually add?
No, it's just like, like people growing, like say alfalfa, for instance, and then one, they're, grasses and stuff in there, they'll spray it on, I can't remember the name of that herbicide, but yeah, they'll spray that stuff. But yeah, it's just a really nasty kind of herbicide. I know some people that add that in put that in their garden, and no garden for the next quite a few years. Okay, so rock dust. Has anybody heard of using rock dust in your garden? Diatomaceous, that's a different thing. Oh, that's more actually for killing little critters. So rock dust. Can anyone think of a reason why rock dust would be great to put in your garden?
Well, we have vermiculite, perlite, that type of thing. I made my living with that stuff, and it was used in soil. It's mixed with peat moss all the time to aerate the soil.
And those are great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a different purpose once again than rock dust. What's in rocks? Minerals, right? And that's the big thing that's missing in vegetables you buy in the store today, is they're very deficient in minerals. So, and a lot of soils these days, if people have been gardening there for years or farming where you're having your garden, it's probably very deficient in minerals. Because people relied on chemical fertilizers for so long and in agriculture, and so it just gets more and more deficient in minerals. They're not replacing all those. So rock dust is various ones.
So manure doesn't provide the mineral.
It's going to provide some, but then a lot of times these animals are now deficient as well because the feed that they're being given is deficient in minerals. So it just keeps on going down the line, right? So if you can, you can't put too much rock dust in a garden. Basically, you don't need very much actually, but it's not like it's going to hurt for more rock dust. You're not going to overdose on rock dust. It's just like the Hunsas. Have you guys heard of the Hunsas in the Himalayas? They were famous for living a long time. What they did is, one of the things they did was get like glacial dust and put that on their gardens, and that was one of the keys why their vegetables and their fruit and everything was so good for them and helped them to live longer lives. It's like glacial dust.
You know where the rock dust comes from when you buy it? Is it like something from particular types of rock?
There's just, it's coming from rock quarries usually. Yeah, so they, and it's all good, but you can get like either from granite, you can get from all sorts of different kinds, and they all have different kinds of minerals. Basalt dust is one of the best ones. It's very, very high in some really important minerals. Pardon me?
Home Depot has rock dust?
They would, garden centers in general, they would all have different kinds of rock dust, yeah. And actually down near, I think it's Grand Forks, they have that's one of the companies that supply that, they manufacture this and sell it. I think it's Gaia, that's what it's called. So some other ones, peat moss is a great thing to add it's adding long-lasting organic matter to your soil. Cover crops. Yeah, we're just gonna. Unfortunately, we could be going for 2 hours on this, so we're gonna have to.
One thing.
Yeah.
What time is it?
Yeah, it's 2:02, so
Okay,
we're gonna be
all right.
cruising through here. So cover crops, and if anybody has questions afterwards, we'll be around for it. Yeah, so we can chat about some of these things. Alfalfa meal, that's a great fertilizer, cheap kind of fertilizer to use. Apply soil amendments and shallow till in the top inch of soil. This is a really key thing. Usually gardeners would have their rototiller, and they will put compost or whatever, and they'll go over with the rototiller, and that's digging it down about 6 inches deep, right? When you apply it just to the top inch, it's not going to get eaten up so much, and you're not disturbing because when it slowly filters down. Just like in the woods there, the leaves fall down in the fall, and the earthworms and everything in nature is designed to pull the stuff down from the surface and pull it down into the rest of the soil. It's not used to having leaves in the woods. It's not used to having those leaves tilled down 6 inches down. So there's different kinds of bacteria down at the lower levels of the soil, whereas up at the top, everything's designed to have that organic matter at the top, and it will pull everything down into the soil.
So when you till it in, you're disturbing those microbes below.
And you're killing a lot of earthworms, and we'll get into that a little bit more afterwards. So what we do is a low tillage, and almost pretty much no tillage nowadays, today on our farm. So this results in lots of earthworms and the best soil improver there is.
Earthworms. I used to scream every time I saw the worms when we first started farming together. I had a traumatic incident in my childhood with worms, and so I'd scream every time I'd see a worm. These days I'm so much better, aren't I? I haven't been screaming. I haven't been screaming so much lately. I'm getting to be a better farmer.
I haven't heard screams for years.
Yeah. Except when I saw the big, huge frog the other day.
The toad,
yeah, but that's all right. You know, just really quickly with respect to the cover crops, an advantage, for example, the fall rye. We planted fall rye last fall, and this year we just harvested.
Well, you normally kill the fall rye in,
but
we ended up just letting it mature, so that's a bit different thing.
Yeah.
You're missing the perks of
exactly.
crop,
but still, it's a cover crop until you do it.
You're protecting the soil.
Yeah. So now we've got grain and we've got straw. So 2 income streams from that fall rye that we wouldn't have gotten if we just tilled it in earlier this season. So
yeah, I should say briefly, the reason why cover crop is so great is once again that whole thing of not having soil bare soil, keeping that covered, because that's not nature. When soil is bare, it dries out, it hardens. If you cover it, even just putting a piece of plastic over soil, you'll find, peel it away 6 months later, that soil underneath is just nice and moist and soft and easy to work with. But if you left that bare, it's going to be hard like cement. So that just keeps it covered, that cover crop. So why deeply dug raised beds? So you can do any width that you want. It could be 4 feet wide. You want something that you can work easily with. That's not too far of a stretch for you to reach over your raised bed. But we do 30-inch wide beds because that's just our tools are designed for 30-inch wide.
There's our 30-inch beds there. That's a picture.
You can see our pathways. Our pathways here have our wood chips. We dug down in the pathways and then filled them up with wood chips and put all the soil that was from the pathway, put it onto the bed, so it's a nice raised bed. And so that's how we grow. So it results in better drainage when you do it like that. You have more topsoil. You have on the side of the pathway is wood chips, so water can just go into those pathways. And
less weeds.
And we don't have any weeds in the pathways. Very, very, very little. And we're on. Okay.
No, I just went back to show the
okay, yeah.
And also, with respect to these pathways, we have mostly clay soil.
Yeah, it would be a very good pottery. Manufacturing pottery.
Yeah. Last year, when we didn't have the wood chips down, on a rainy day or for harvesting or sprinklers were going, our boots would easily have 10 extra pounds of clay. And this year, none of that. No weeds, no clay in our boots. Oh, it's just wonderful.
Okay, so because we're growing on these raised beds, like say our 30 inches, we'll do 5 to 6 rows of carrots in a space this wide, whereas the traditional way that most people would garden is they'd have a row here and then a pathway and then another row. You'd end up taking like a very wide space to have 5 or 6 rows of carrots, right? So it's just much more intensive. And so this wide, deeply raised bed, the way that we showed you that picture, we don't ever walk on that bed. We walk on the pathway and never step foot in that pathway. So that soil doesn't get compacted, it just stays nice and loose. And so, it ends up being very little reason for tilling them because it's just not getting compacted down.
So is that 30 inches wide?
No, 30 inches wide.
How high is it?
It ends up, because we're just taking that soil out and then putting it on top, probably about 8 inches or so, 8 to 10 inches.
No 2 by 8s or 2 by 10?
Not for our scale, it would just be impossible. Almost impossible. But definitely on a home garden scale, you can make raised beds. Yeah, you can use boards, you can use cement blocks, whatever. You can do all sorts of things to make. And so then you can have raised beds the size you want. This is just on our farm scale. This is what we do. But
how many beds do we have? We've got,
there's about 150 beds.
Yeah,
50 feet long.
yeah.
Yeah, so it would be a lot of lumber here.
And a lot more space.
And of course, with lumber, I mean, then that's going to rot. So that's one thing. I'm not a big fan of lumber, but yeah, it can definitely work. It's just still it's going to rot.
Right. And this is 150 beds on a little bit more than 1 acre.
Yeah,
This is only 1 acre. That's big farm. So, but very
still
intensive.
pretty small scale, but we get
Very
a lot of
intensive.
vegetables out of that 1 acre.
Yeah, you can see our lettuces there, 3 rows and 1 bed. It's just a ton load.
Okay. So reduces and can even eliminate need for road tilling. Better for plant life and earthworms. Improves drainage. And then you can use a rod fork or even just a garden fork. So instead of tilling, so what we do, I'll just give a brief rundown of how we do our farm. Is because we have very heavy clay soil. Hi there, good to see you. Okay, yes, hello there. Yeah, long time no see. Because we have very heavy clay soil, we tilled in a bunch of manure into these beds initially, and then we actually brought in very good quality kind of topsoil. It's organic topsoil from up in Enderby is where we got it, and we put about 5 inches on top of that. And then after that, then every year we'll just put another inch of that. And it's like it's a topsoil mixed with compost. It's a whole formulation of you could just do. Then after that, we don't do tilling. All we do is just add another layer, an inch before each crop, in general, and we just keep doing that. But over time, the soil underneath there, the native soil, will slowly get compacted, even though we're not stepping on it. So that's where a broad fork or a garden fork, we just loosen up a bit. We don't have one of those here, but you just stick it in and you just pull it back just a little bit. Not like you're not trying to flip the soil over, you're just trying to get air down into the soil. So that's all we do. And it's actually not that much work. It goes by quick, especially after doing it a few times. It loosens up really nice. So broad fork, garden fork, that's a really great thing because the roots need oxygen. It's super, super important. They need the water, but if they are just not getting the oxygen, your plant's not going to grow very good.
There's a picture of that.
Yeah, that's the broad fork there. So practice over shallow tillage if you are tilling at all. That's what I was saying. We only till in the top inch or two maximum. And now, how many have heard of lasagna gardening? Awesome. Yeah, there's some people here. So, who doesn't like lasagna? Even your plants love lasagna. So, another word for this would be sheet mulching, if anyone's heard that term. Basically, so you just have your garden bed and you would just layer compostable materials. You can have, start with the rougher stuff, so you can put maybe some branches down, put some manure on top, put some straw, and just kind of alternate grass clippings, leaves, dead leaves, and then right on the very top, you can top it all off with some topsoil, with just a couple inches of topsoil. Ideally, you just do that in the summer, fall, and then the next spring you could plant in that, and that's just going to result in an amazing way to have a garden. That's how I did it up north in 100 Mile House. That's how I did my garden up there, and yeah, I was very impressed with the results from that. Yeah. So this was actually from that garden up in 100 Mile House, and it was kind of like a little mini market garden that I was doing there. But here we have onions here, keeping the soil covered. I had straw along the side there to keep the soil moist, and I was actually bedding that I had goats at the time, so it was straw mixed with manure, but yeah, it just had beautiful onions.
So this is for the mulch?
Chips?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Pardon me?
You ever use the wood chips
We don't use it on our market garden. I'm familiar with the Backfeeden method. Haven't really done it myself. I mean, I think it's done right. I think, yeah, of course it's going to get great results. But it's whatever you have for, I mean, you can use, there's people that just use old hay, like moldy hay. Done the same thing with that. Like Ruth Stout was back in the 60s and 70s. She was had an incredible results just having old hay and having about a foot thick, and yeah, just incredible results with that. She has a book out on that. So we didn't go through the previous one at all. So mulching, I know we're running out of time here. So reduces watering, eliminates erosion, reduces compaction, creates perfect habitat for earthworms, greatly reduces or eliminates weeds, and can warm soil as well if using certain plastic or paper mulches. And here we don't need to worry, you guys don't need to worry so much about warming the soil, but up north that was a big thing, so I would use types of plastic mulch to warm the soil. Okay, so 3 types of mulch: the plastic, paper mulch, and that would include also in there landscape fabric, so it would be there as well. Dead organic matter, so straw, dead leaves, grass clippings, pine needles, etc. Can be just whatever you have. And then a living mulch. And this is more on our farm. What we do is more the living mulch. So say if you have a bed of broccoli, well, you could plant clover. Dwarf-white clover is a great one. It doesn't grow too tall. You can plant that all around it. It will just grow underneath it. It will keep that soil shaded, keep it moist. And so you're not trying, just keep that soil covered. And sweet clover is another one. Corn is soybeans are a great thing to grow with corn. And then you're kind of getting 2 crops with one. On our farm, we don't have the pictures here, but say with our tomato plants in the spring, and they're just one row down the center of our 30-inch wide bed. Well, on either side, we can grow either heads of lettuce or radishes, and a number of quick growing crops we can grow on either side just to keep that covered. And so it doesn't have to be clover, it can be any kind of other crop that you can just cover that soil with. Yeah.
This is one where we were.
This is actually a farm up in 100 Miles, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so here I had peppers growing here. It worked out okay. I wouldn't probably do this combination again. And then I had sweet basil next to the peppers. Tomatoes and sweet basil is a classic combination where you're keeping it covered, and the tomatoes quickly grow a lot taller, so they're not competing with each other. Okay, if you can go back, if you can go back on there.
You know what? Why don't you email me? Because you're probably not able to get all the information you want. So you can email me and I'll email you the whole presentation.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, you see,
anyone
Brian, you're
else,
probably
if they
missing
want
a
it,
lot.
they can.
Feel free to email me
Yeah.
for the presentation.
Yeah,
Guys.
and we apologize, have to run through this fairly quick.
It'll be video too.
Yeah, and it will
True,
be on
yeah.
video, so yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect. So next one is
Okay,
crop
so
rotation.
crop rotation.
Why do we need to do that?
Yeah, well, it's saying I was going to ask, but it says right there. So, minimize disease and insect infestations. So, why do you think that would be? Why is that minimizing disease?
Different kinds of pests and disease. Different plants there.
Yeah.
Respond to the kill it.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, if you're growing potatoes in the same place every year, for instance, well, any pests that like those potatoes, they just know where to go, right? And they might be overwintering in that spot in the winter, and so yeah, you make it too easy for them. So moving things around, helps can even help control weeds. Some crops actually inhibit weeds, and there are some crops are better at eliminating weeds because it just needs more. Maybe it covers the ground better, or various reasons like that it doesn't allow weeds to come up.
Brenda, you had a question?
Yeah, they say garlic is a 2-year rotation.
Minimum, yeah,
Minimum?
minimum, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but in general, just to be safe, a 4-year rotation at least would be a minimum that I would do. Just makes it easy. Some crops don't even need to rotate, but it's always just a great thing if you can rotate it. Like lettuce, you could grow lettuce in the same place year after year, and it wouldn't probably have any issues.
Yeah, did you get a question?
You grow for up to 4 years in one spot.
No. If you plant potatoes in one spot in your garden, wait 4 years before you grow it there. The 4th year you could grow there again.
Probably doesn't to go through this whole list.
Yeah, maybe if you want to, if you have a camera, take a picture. We don't have time to go into this, but do's and don'ts of this gets much more technical for crop rotation, but it's very, you can really get into the crop rotation to really get a lot of benefits from it. And we can share the presentation, or it'll be on the video. And so here's a sample rotation that incorporates what was on that previous slide. And so if you, it just shows how you can rotate it around, corn coming before potatoes, etc., etc. And it all works with some crops need a lot of fertilizer, like say manure or compost, and the other ones hardly need any. So say you have your garden divided into 4 blocks. So the one section is where you would apply manure this year in that section. And then you would move that crop that you grew there, that, like say corn needs a lot of manure. So then you move that to the next year, you plant that in the next bed, next block, and that year then you apply, the next year you put the manure in that one. And so the one that had the manure the previous year, you plant something that needs quite a bit of manure but doesn't need it as much as the corn. So like potatoes, they definitely benefit from manure, but they don't need a fresh manure. They don't do so well with that. So that's why the potatoes do really good after the corn. One reason, and as well as it helps to prevent scab, and that gets into more technical things. So interplanting or companion planting, as Brenda mentioned earlier. So beneficials of that is confuses insects. You're just mixing things up. So mixing in the flowers to attract beneficial insects, that is especially good. Flowers, herbs are a great thing to mix in with your other plants. Enables planting far more in a given space. So that's where, like our tomatoes, when we plant lettuce on either side of the tomato plant, so we're getting 2 crops out of 1, right?
Less weeds.
Yeah, when we're planting onions, we plant in between the onion rows, we plant radishes, and the radishes come up quick, and then we harvest them, and then the onions have room to like get nice and big. So yeah, there's lots of different ways you can mix these together, and you just get way more out of a given space.
Absolutely.
Okay, another key thing is proper spacing. So too close, plants will be spindly and invite pests as well. Too far apart, and precious soil is wasted, and that just is an invitation for weeds to come up if you're having too much space in between your vegetables. So I've seen people where they say they have like 50 tomato plants, and because they think they have all these plants, and they have this little tiny spot that is maybe like about the size of this table here, and so they're just gonna plant all those tomato plants in there. Well, they end up getting way less tomatoes than if they just planted 5 plants in that area. And so you don't, less is often more than so.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, if you have this space the size of the table and you only planted 1 tomato plant, well, you're just wasting a whole lot of space, right? So you want to just the right perfect spacing. Okay. You want to talk about weed management a little bit? You can talk about this.
Because he makes me do all the weeding.
No, she's doing all the washing of harvesting on a market garden is half the work, and so that's where she really shines, is in the harvesting department. And actually, you've gotten really good for the transplanting, actually.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of transplanting.
All right,
Yeah.
so weed management, we talked about the mulching, and the mulching is really key. For example, we've got some straw on those pepper plants. We have a new bed of pepper plants, and because there's the straw on there, there's no weeds.
And the soil's nice and moist.
Exactly,
soft,
absolutely.
yeah.
And you know, for several years previous, we didn't do that type of thing. And you guys know, if you've got your own gardens, weeds can get away on you. And sometimes, you know, we just kind of walked away. It's like, forget it, we don't have time to do that particular weeding. And I remember one particular year in Oyama where the weeds were so high, and we spent like all day just getting some beds cleared of weeds. But when you're doing the mulching, it is just precious. It is so precious.
I would add, though, that with our new method of gardening, with that, how we put that toilet topsoil on top, we have virtually no weeding to do. The peppers that my wife's talking about were grown in the perimeter of the garden that didn't have those new kind of beds, and so they had more weeds coming up. But so we did the straw mulch. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you just talked about the close spacing of plants, and that's really key as well, because if there's no sunlight getting down onto the bare land, there's no weeds coming up. And so you want to have that close spacing of plants, just close enough so it's not crowding each other. And then when the weeds are coming up, so like you've got your fresh bed, and when you start to see little weeds, little babies, you don't want to wait until they grow. You just, that's the one.
This is more the one actually.
And let me just tell you, this my husband made.
Yeah, it doesn't look like much, but this is one of the handiest things you can have on the garden.
Absolutely.
It's called a wire weeder. You can buy them, but it's so easy to make that
Exactly.
we just make them.
Sizes of them.
Yeah.
Just lift those
Yeah.
out. So as soon as you see those weeds cropping up, you want to just nip them in the bud, because it's going to take you like 1 minute versus an hour when they're bigger.
So it doesn't cut it off, it just pulls it out?
It pulls it out, yeah. And actually, ideally, you just want to use these once a week. If you did that, don't even wait until you see weeds, because they are coming up in the soil. And so and it's like super, super fast. I mean, you can just, as fast as you can walk, you just go down. And you're not, it's kind of rounded corners, so you're not damaging your crops. It just, so you can go really fast. And it's not hard. These are light, and it's just, you're not hacking away at these weeds or getting down your hands and knees and pulling weeds.
Just disturbing the soil, just disturbing, cultivating your bed. Comfrey? You don't want to pull up comfrey. Comfrey is gold.
It invaded my world.
Oh, yeah, that's why you want to have in a separate spot.
Yeah.
They just come on their own.
You're not. This is not going to deal with comfrey. No.
I should have asked you to bring us some comfrey. We actually want to grow a wide swath.
Come and help yourself.
Okay. Absolutely. For anybody who's listening, comfry is gold.
With comfrey, if you grow comfrey, there is the what's it called, 14? Type of comfrey that doesn't reseed. It doesn't spread by seeds.
We don't grow it.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if you don't have the right kind, it can quickly become the worst weed ever.
But you can turn that into cash, girl. Turn that into cash. Sell that stuff. Give it to us, but sell it otherwise, With
that, you're just going to be digging.
Yeah, true. Well, another thing with the weed management, never let your weeds go to seed, because then you're just giving yourself a whole truckload more weeds
for the next quite a few years.
Yeah, exactly. And then the transplanting. Transplanting is such an ideal way to manage your weeds. Can anybody tell me why you'd want to transplant into your garden rather than direct seeding whenever you can? Okay, whenever you can. This is the last one.
Yeah.
Anybody? Well, because, and I learned this from my husband, because if you're transplanting a plant, then you're taking away, well, not that you're taking away, let me put it the other way. If you're direct seeding, you've got to wait how many weeks for that plant to grow. But if you're transplanting an actual plant you already have taken away a few weeks there for seeds, for weeds to get hold. So you're really doing yourself a favor if you're transplanting rather than direct seeding as much as possible. Of course, some things we have to direct seed.
Like carrots, we can transplant,
Exactly.
but pretty much everything else we transplant. There's very little that we direct seed actually.
Exactly. Yeah. You just have to get past the
it
transplanting.
seems many people think that just can't be because it seems so easy to direct seed, right? Especially when we have this is the first kind of seeder we have. This is suitable for a home garden setting. And then we have we don't use this one much anymore. Although it works great for most seeds. We have one that's called a Jang that is much more precise and just does a really, really good job. But on a home garden setting, this works great. We use this still for like things like corn and peas, actually beans, not even peas actually. So that's about it. But yeah, this is a great thing. If you have a bigger home garden, don't be out there just trying to do that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Use the tools.
But yeah, transplanting is you're getting ahead of the weeds. You're getting able to grow so much more in your garden, and you can also spinach is a good example, or like lettuces. Say lettuce, if you try planting lettuce seeds in the middle of summer when it's hot, you're gonna have a very tough time getting those things to germinate. Whereas we plant them in flats and maybe in the basement where it's nice and cool, they just have perfect germination anytime in the summer, and then we can transplant them into the garden.
Exactly.
So
save yourself lots of time and lots of work. And of course, using the cover crop for your weed management, definitely. And soil solarization. Can you talk to us a little bit about the soil solarization?
If you have something like comfrey, or probably the nastiest weed that I can think of is something called bindweed. It's like has little morning glory flowers, and it's like a vine that grows all over. And
planted morning glories when I first started gardening.
Bindweed. I just think of it as like the weed from the devil himself. It's the roots can go down like 6 feet deep, and the seeds will stay viable for 50 years.
But it's medicinal. It is medicinal.
But just have it somewhere a long ways away from your garden. But so if you had something like that, or the comfrey, if you really wanted to get rid of it, you could cover in the heat of the summer. I would water the garden well, and then just cover it with clear plastic and seal all the way around the edges, bury the edges, and just leave that for a few weeks, and that will kill. It will kill also if you have a bad disease or like pest or like a lot of things. It'll kill everything. It will just sterilize the soil, and so that can be very beneficial if you have a really bad weed.
Okay, our last slide, I believe. Yeah, pest management, real quick.
Okay. So the key fundamental rule is strong, healthy plants resist and repel pests, eating them. And so that's why most plants out in the woods don't get affected by pests. But if there is the odd one that is getting attacked by pests, it's because it's not doing very well. And so it's nature's way of getting rid of that unhealthy plant.
So the steps that we've just shown you, those 9 previous ones, those will produce those healthy plants for you.
Yeah, so the real lifetime learning thing in gardening is learning how for each different kind of plant that you're growing, learning what is the exact perfect environment for that plant, what its needs are. When you figure that out, you're going to eliminate just about every kind of pest and disease that you have that is out there. And is really the key. So, yeah.
Chipmunk?
Well, yeah, that could be a different thing. They might just love those. But yeah, the interesting thing is with like insect pests. Yeah, not for chipmunks or deer, but for insects, the health, as it says, that healthy plants actually resist and repel pests from eating them. They actually can't even digest the plant material from these super healthy plants, and so that's why they don't eat them. And so that's what you want to go for. It's just like humans, right? If our bodies are really super healthy, we're not even affected. There's bad germs going around all the time. You can have a flu going around and you're just not even gonna be effective, right?
Exactly.
Because your body is resistant. It says just back off.
Exactly. 30 seconds.
Yeah.
30
Okay.
seconds.
Creating ideal environments for plant growth will greatly reduce insect damage. So I mentioned that already. Interplanting flowers and herbs confuse insects, attracts beneficial insects. And if all else fails, you can use something called a row cover.
You guys familiar with row cover?
Or insect netting. So here's
some dirty row
here's
cover.
here's a little piece of our
It's an
row
old
cover.
one.
Has anyone tried this before? Use this? Okay, awesome. Yeah, this for organic gardening. This is some crops that we grow. Yeah, like our salad turnips. Yeah, the fundamental principle is healthy plants don't attract pests, but we haven't figured that out for salad turnips yet. Yeah, we would not have a crop if we didn't cover it with insect netting or row covers. So yeah.
And yeah, so in summary, by learning from nature, gardening doesn't have to be a back-breaking ordeal filled with nasty pests, sickly plants, and little return for all of your labor. Instead, your yard can be turned into that Garden of Eden. And so we hope that for each one of you, and I'm just looking at these flowers here and just think, oh, this is so lovely. And this year we've got like sunflowers around the perimeter of our 1 acre and zinnias and all kinds of things. So it does look like the Garden of Eden.
Beautiful, yeah.
At our farm this year. So blessings to you guys. Remember, food shortages, food supply, all that kind of thing. Grow your gardens. Make sure you're doing that.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.